Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. SAP with IK. Hope you're all doing good. So today's topic will be on the sales and operations planning, and we'll try to understand what is basically an SOP and how to create the planning or maybe the forecast based on the past consumption or the past sale history. And we'll also discuss on how to transfer the S&OP data into the demand management. So let's get into SAP and start creating this. I've been receiving several requests and comments from most of our viewers, and they are basically asking about the topics that were already covered in the past. So, for each and every video that I post in the channel, we basically have, if you go into the details of this particular video, let's say, and if you just come down under the description, so here. So I have provided, the direct links for each of these topics where you can click and directly go into that corresponding video. So all the videos that I have uploaded so far in our channel have been placed under the description of each and every video, not just the latest ones, but right from the beginning I've been doing so. I'm not sure how many of you are basically noticing this, but you do have the entire content available under this uh, description of every video. So please do use this information that has been provided here. So look for your topic and just click on this link that has been provided so that it navigates you to the exact video. Hope this helps. Thank you. So here I'm in SAP. So let me go to the path of the sales and operation planning. So here we see the logistics, and then we have production. So under production, we have a folder for SOP, or this sales and operation planning. So the SOP can basically be created at a product group level, or you also can create this at a single material, right? So if you look at the planning folder, we do have few options to plan the entire product group or maybe for a particular material. So the first step in the SOP is basically to create a product group, because the product group is basically it holds the set of materials that belong to a particular product group. So let's say in an FMCG industry, we do have a few products. Let's take an example. Like we have beverages, we have milk products, and we also have chips or maybe baked items. So under these particular categories, we also have several products, right? So these products can be categorized into a particular group, and then the SOP or the sales and operations planning can be performed based on its previous uh, consumption data or maybe the sales data, right, on the historical side. So based on the historical data, we are going to plan it for the future months. So in order to create a product group, we can directly go to this path from here to create a product group. So here, let's say I'm going to create a product group for the APIs. So since we are into the, we'll take an example of the pharma company. And for the APIs, I'm going to create a product group. So it would be PRD underscore GRP underscore APIs. So this will be the product group for pharmas. Sorry, for APIs. For API. And this will be in the plant 1000, and we should also make sure that the base unit is going to be the same for all the products lying under this particular product group. So this would be in the base unit of a kg. And what will be the members under this product group? So am I going to add a few other product groups under this particular product group, PRD, GRP, API, or would it be individual materials? So now I'm going to choose it as materials and then hit on enter. So usually we see this error message saying that this field is defined as a required field and it does not contain an entry. So we do have an OSS node that has been provided with few possible options. But if that is still not working, then the other way is basically to go with the creation of the product group from MM01 transaction. So, I mean, you might be familiar with this transaction where we create a material master. But here we are going to choose the industry and also the material type. So here my industry is going to be a pharmaceuticals and the material type is going to be a product group. So I'm searching for that. Yeah, we have the material type as PROD. Okay. And once you hit on enter, or maybe before that, we can provide the material code as well. So PRD underscore GRP underscore API. So this is my material group. Sorry, the material code for the product group. And you can see that we have actually got four views, just four views for this material type. And again, it's basically a standard configuration and it has been defaulted for this particular material type PROD. So I'm going to choose all these and continue. And the plant will be 1000. And here I'm going to provide the description. So the similar way that we have done in the other transaction, so the same way we are going to do it here as well. So product group for API in 1000 and the base unit would be kg, and the purchasing group MRP type PD. I mean, since you would like to go with the execution of MRP for this particular product group, we are going to choose the MRP type as PD, and then you have the lot size and the MRP controller, and then the procurement type. Let's say I'm going to give it as E, and few other mandatory parameters. And finally MRP4. So we have extended all four views and then save the material. So now we have the material PRD underscore GRP underscore API created, which is basically our product group for APIs. So now let's go back and start creating a group for that. So I'm going to go back to the easy access, and here, since we have already created the product group, I'm not going to use it again, but I'm going into the change transaction. And here we see this product group, right, and the plant. Now hit on enter. So the members should be as materials, right? So then continue. So here is where we can assign several materials that fall under this particular product group of APIs. So for now, I'm going to use a few materials. One of it is API, and the plant is 1000. And then PI dash CERM in 1000 again. And TFV and TFV 100 and 300. Right. So now here we could see that all these members or the material codes that we have entered under this group are having the same unit of measure, right, as kgs. And now you can also see the proportional factor over here, right? So we'll discuss about this with few more examples once we go into the scenarios. But for now, I'm going to leave it as 0 and then save it. So it says that the sum of the proportional factors is 0%. Do you want to continue? Yes. So now the product group has been created with the following members. So the next is basically to start creating the plan or the SOP plan for the product group. So I'm going into this particular folder to create the product group. So here we are now going to create a plan for this particular product group. Now hit on enter. and it will always ask you to create a new version whenever you're going to create a plan for the product group. So now we are going to use the version 008, which is a new version, and it is an inactive version. So now here we can see few periods, like starting from March 2023 till Feb 2024. So the total period is around 12 months. So now for the sales, I'm going to, based on the historical data, I'm going to plan the sales for this particular product group, let's say in 1000 kgs in the month of March, and then in the month of April, I'm going to make it 1100 kgs, and then 1200, and then 1300. So this is my sales plan. Now coming to the production plan, how do you want to have the production orders be created for these items under this particular product group, right? So what should be the quantity of those production batches? So for that reason, there are few ways how we can calculate it. One is basically, if you always would like to have a stock in the plant in each of these monthly buckets, so then you also can enter the target stock levels. It means that system will make sure that the target stock level is always made available in the plant, apart from the sales requirement or the sales plan, right? So let's say I would like to always have a stock level of 100 kgs in every month. So now once you enter the target stock level and hit on enter, and before I hit on enter, you can see the stock levels here, right? So it says that we have a requirement of 1000 kgs, but there is no procurement proposal planned yet for this particular month, March 2023 bucket. So the stock level is under the deficit of 1000 kgs. And when we move on to the next month of April, we could see a deficit of minus 2100 kgs. So that would be a sum of the previous month's stock levels and also the requirement of this month, April. So that would be 2100. And if we move on to the next month of May, it would be the sum of the total stock levels, which is minus 2100, and also the requirements we have in May. So that makes it like in 3300. So it goes on, in an incremental way, unless we create a production plan for this. So now the production plan, let's say I'm going to use it as 500. So I'm going to plan the production for 500 kgs in the month of March, irrespective of the sales requirement or the target stock levels. So now hit on enter. Now you could see that the stock levels have varied a bit, right? Why? Because the production has been planned for 500 and the requirement is 1000. So now after meeting the requirement, the stock level is still under deficit of 500. So that has been again added to the next month's requirement. That makes it 1600, and the same way, right? So if I start, adding this production plan, let's say 600, and then you have 700. So the same way the calculation, it goes on based on the production plan. So instead of adding this production plan, we always tend to manufacture the item based on the requirement from the sales, right? So for that, we have a flexibility to basically create this production plan according to the sales requirement. So for that, you have to select this planning table, the row in the planning table for production, and then go to edit, and then go to this option to create the production plan and choose this option as synchronous to sales. So which means that your production plan is going to be same as your sales requirement. So if I click on this, you could see that the production plan has been made in sync with our sales requirement. Okay, but if I choose the production plan to be somewhat based on the target stock level, so then choose it, and you could see that your target stock level is 100, which is again a requirement for the plan, and your sales requirement is 1000. So which makes it, the production plan should be according to your target stock level as well. I mean, it should meet both your requirements from the sales and also the target stock levels. So for that reason, the production has been increased to 1100 from 1000. Okay. So upon increasing this, then the stock level in the plant is going to be 100, which meets the requirement of your target stock level. In the same continues in the subsequent months. So let's say my target stock, I'm going to make it as 150 in the month of April, and then 200 in May, and then 250 in June. So now I'm going to rerun the production plan based on my target stock level. So now you can see. So now the production plan has been adjusted to make sure that the target stock level is met along with the sales plan. Okay. So now I'm going to go with it synchronous to sales. So if I go in sync with the sales, and then the stock level in the plant is nothing, right? Why? Because we are just meeting the requirement from the sales, and we are not bothering about the target stock level. Okay. So now I'm going to change it back to the target stock level. So this is the plan we have made for the months starting from March 2023 to June 2023. So we have our sales plan and we also have our production plan. So now let's save it. So now the plan has been saved under this particular version 008. So now I'm going into the change mode. And if you click on the active version and the inactive version, so let's see what happens. In the active version, you always have the active version defined as A001, right? So whenever we are going to create a plan, and since it is not finalized yet or not confirmed by the planning team, we are always going to create it as an inactive version, and that would not be part of an active version. So I'm going to go back and then click on inactive version. So now system is going to ask me which of these inactive versions you would like to use. So I'm going to use 008. So we have the plan here. And before I go into the transfer of demand, uh, let's look at the product group. So I'm going into a new window. Again, logistics, production, SOP, and then you have the product group. And now I'm going to choose display. So under the display product group, you can see we have these 4 items or 4 semi-finished or finished products. So now I would like to go into the MD04 just to show you the stock levels for one of the product. So we are talking about API. So for API, we have an available quantity of 300 in the stock, and no other requirements exist for this. The same way, if I choose the second one, PI-CERM, so PI-CERM has nothing. We have 0 stock. And then the third one, FV100, nothing here as well. And the same way for FV300, nothing here, right? So now let's go back. Okay. So now let's try to transfer this data, the sales data or the production data, into the demand management. So to transfer the data into the demand management, like in the standard demand management, we should basically assign a strategy group for the material master. So if I go into the details of this material FV100, we do have the strategy group assigned as 10, which is nothing but the make to stock. So we expect to see a independent requirement with the requirement type as LSF, which basically supports the make to stock scenario. So I'm going to, this is one prerequisite where you have to define the strategy groups in all of these products. right? That is when you will have a proper or a consistent demand plan. So now I'm going to transfer the sales data or the production data into the demand management. So let's say if you would like to transfer the sales data, right, then choose this row in the planning table for sales, and then click on extras, and then you have the option of transfer to demand management. So save the planning values first, okay, and do it one more time. Yes. And now you can see that the version is an inactive version, right? 008, from which we are basically transferring it. And here we do have few options for the sales plan for material, or PG. PG basically stands for a product group. And then the product group members as a proportion of the product group. So we do have these two options for the sales plan, and these two options for the production plan. So since we have planned to go with the sales plan for now, I'm going to choose this second radio button to go with the proportion of the product group for the sales plan. And here we have to provide the requirements type. So I'm going to make it as LSF, and the version is 01. And the from period and to period, this is optional. I mean to say the to period is optional. Why? Because the entire plan that you have created, it will be transferred if you have not specified any particular limit, but you have want to just transfer only one period, then you can provide the to period as well, right? So now click on transfer. So now it tells us that the planning version need to be transferred is not a active version. Okay. So now we see this warning message or maybe a log saying that all these materials, they have few demand management already existing, and that has been deleted, and the new one has been loaded with the requirement type as LSF, right? So now I'm going into the MD04. Let's take this example FV100, and now I'm going to refresh it. So we don't see any demand plan created yet for these materials, right? So let's check another material API. So there is no even a demand plan created for either of these materials. So the reason is that if we go to the display of the demand plan in MD63, and then I choose all active and inactive versions, or maybe you can go to the product group directly. So here are product group. Let me just copy it and go to the product group, select the second radio button, and then so the reason we don't see any requirement plans under these materials is that we have transferred the data from the inactive version, right? So the version that we just copied or maybe transferred from the SOP to the demand management is an inactive version. That is the reason it is not transferring the data into the demand management. So let's go back and see how to make this, how to transfer the data from inactive version to a active version. So for that, we are going to use this option, this particular transaction MC88, to basically copy the version, right? So click on that, and then you have to choose the inactive version, which is 008, and then I'm going to copy it into the active version, which is A00. So now I'm going to choose the period where, for which the data should be basically copied. So I'm choosing it from March 2023 till December 2023, and then click on copy. Okay, click on yes. So once it is done, we can go back to the planning for the product group and go into the change or maybe the display. So let's go into the change MC82. That's the transaction, and here we have the product group. So now we see the inactive versions, which is 8, and you can see that we already planned with the sales and also the production data. So now if I go back and look at the active version, So you can see that the same has been copied to the active version A00, right? And now we are going to transfer this sales data into the demand management. So go to extras and then click on transfer to demand management. You'll have to do it twice. Okay, so it should be the proportion of PG, right? And then just click on transfer now. The requirement was already available. So now let's go to the MD63 and look at the active version data. So here we do see the demand plan, that has been entered, but there are no values for the schedule lines. So there are no schedule lines and also the quantity that we have updated here, right, in the active version. So that is not being transferred into this. So what is the reason for that? So the main reason for that is basically with the master data, right? So I'm going back one step. So now go into the details of the product group and go into the change of mode of the product group, MC86. So this is a product group, and here we have defined the proportion as 0%, right? So the value is always in the percentage here. So that is the reason system is not giving us any output in the demand management. So then the planned value of this particular the SOP. Let me go back to that for product group display. So here the total quantity of 1100 kgs. So since we have defined it as zero a proportion, so nothing has been actually transferred into the demand plan. So if you would like to transfer the entire data based on your sales plan to this particular product group or the materials, so then you should maintain it as a 100%, right? So I'm making it as 100. So it means that the total plan should be with the proportion of 100% for this particular material API. So let's say you would like to only transfer 50% for this particular material PI-CERM. So then the proportional factor should be as 50, and remaining let's make it at 100, and again 100. So now let's see how this works. So I'm going to save it. So it says that the sum of the proportional factors is 350%. So which is nothing but the cumulative of all the proportions for the members or the material codes that are part of this product group. So then I'm going to click on yes, continue. And now we'll go to the planning. Okay, go into the change. Okay, we are in display. So now go to the planning, MC82, active version. So now do the same thing, transfer to demand management. Okay. We have the sales plan as proportion of the product group. Transfer now. Requirement was made available. So I'm going to go back to MD63. All active versions. So now you can see that the demand plan has been created for all these members of the product group based on our sales plan. So if I just bring this sales plan over here, I'll go to the display, active version. So here for the API, since we have defined the proportion percentage as 100, so the total sales plan of 100 in the month of March and 1100 in the month of April and 1200 for May and 1300 for June has been completely transferred to this particular material. And whereas for the second member, the PI-CERM, so for this we just define the proportional percentage as 50, right? So that's the reason we could see only partial quantity being transferred over here. Okay, so we could see 1200 being converted to 600, and then 1100 being converted to 550, and 1000 converted to 500, right? So now this is, I mean, hope you have understood the importance of the proportional percentage under the product group. Let's say if you would like to transfer the production plan but not the sales plan, right? So the production plan is what you have agreed with your shop floor manager, that you have to manufacture so much of quantity in order to meet the target stock level and also to meet the sales plan. So that's the reason we should transfer the quantity from the production plan, right? So let's go back. I'm going to exit this and go to the change mode of the planning. Now click on active version. So now I'm going to transfer the production plan, right? So do the same way. You just need to select this production plan and then click on transfer to demand management. And here you should choose the second radio button that belongs to the production plan but not the sales plan, right? So you just need to choose this radio button which includes the proportional values of the product group members as well, right? So yeah, that's it. Now click on transfer. So it says that the requirement has been transferred. So let's go into the display just to look at the values of the production plan, and on the other screen let's take a look at the independent requirements. Active versions. Now you could see, okay, let me bring this here. Right, so the production plan in the month of May, it is 1100. So that's what we see here for the material API. And then we have 1150, and then 1250 and 1350. And for the second member PI-CERM, we have half of it, right? I mean, since the proportional percentage is only 50%, we are just going to plan 50% of the total quantity. So it depends on, I mean, based on your requirement, basically you can enter several members or the materials under this particular product group and execute the planning. So now the next step is basically to go into the MD04 of these members, because the product group, it is the task of this product group is basically to transfer the demand, right, or to create a rough planning based on your historical data. So now its job is done, and the next one, it goes into the individual parameters of these corresponding materials. So let's go into MD04. Let me take this example, API. So we have, based on our available stocks, the independent requirements have been adjusted, right? And if I look at the other material, PI-CRM, yeah. So the data has been completely transferred of what we see in the demand plan. Okay, 550, 575, 625, and 675 completely transferred. So now what is the next step? So the next step is basically to go with the MRP run and start creating your proposals and go with the production execution process. So again, to run the MRP, there are a few methods that we typically follow. One is to go with the transaction MD01 or MD01N, where you are going to create a scope of planning and which runs at the entire plant. And the second method, let's say if you would like to execute the MRP only for this particular product group, then what should be done? So you simply have to go to the classic transaction MD02, and here we are going to activate this checkbox for the product group. So what is the product group here? It is PRD underscore GRP underscore API. So I'm going to provide this material here and then check this box. Even though if you miss out to check this box, it automatically gets activated when you click on enter. You see this? It says that this particular material is a product group. Okay. So now hit on enter again. Proceed with your MRP. And let's look at the materials that have been included under this. So we do have our main semifinist, that is PI-CRM, API, and TFV100. And also we do have compound A and compound B, which are basically the sub levels under these finished products, right? So let's go back to MD04, not the product group, because it does not create anything, right? So there will be no stock requirement list for this, and that's what the error basically says. So let's take a look at API. And here in the MD04 of API, we can basically see these planned orders being created as part of the MRP run. And similarly, the other material 100. So we also have these planned orders created. And then it goes into the production process basically. So that is how the sales and operation planning works, and the procedure on how to transfer the S&OP planning into the demand management